Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Old Warlock.
Hi.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jim.
And today, I know we've been talking a lot about Dungeons & Dragons history recently, which is something that we are very interested in, and some things like that. But what I wanted to do today, what we wanted to do today, is sit down and go through some of my, as a player, primarily, favorite magical items that I have used in, well, all of them entirely in his campaign.
Which is D&D history.
It is D&D history. It's my D&D history. So you guys have been asking a little bit recently for glimpses into our campaign, how we play, things like that. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to give you just a little peek, a little sprinkle, a little taste of what our Dungeons & Dragons adventures look like. You excited?
Oh, how could I not be?
Me too. Let's get started.
So, you're going to be talking about your favorite, your favorite magical items.
Yes.
That you have either made or that you have played
One of which I have made. The other 4 I have not made. I found.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
I think there's 5 or 6.
I'm really not sure what you're going to say.
Well,
I'm curious.
They're all from the same character, because I've had quite a few characters in quite a few different campaigns, but the primary one that I have played with is the one that I play in his world that I have used since I was 12.
Yes.
And I am now 22. So it's a decade-old character. So he's done a lot of cool things, gotten a lot of cool stuff, so we want to talk about some of that today. He's a fighter, a pretty standard guy, because again, I was 12 when I came up with him, and the only weapon that I could think of using was a sword. So like any good fighter who uses a sword, he needs a sword. And the sword that I use, that my character uses, can actually be found in the Dungeon Master's Guide Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, First Edition. On page 165, it is the sword, +1 flame tongue, +2 versus regenerating creatures, +3 versus cold using inflammable or avian creatures, and +4 versus undead. Now, I know that there are more powerful swords in the world. There absolutely are. My brother's character used one that was significantly more powerful than mine, but this was my sword. Whenever I give the command, whenever I use the command word, it ignites,
bursts into
flame, as though I had dipped it in oil and lit the oil on fire. So I don't even need to carry torches around, because I've just got this. That's what he uses when he goes down into dungeons.
And you know, I think that as far as D&D imagined swords go, this to me is it.
It's a pretty cool sword.
You know, it's the one that when you're reading fantasy novels, you know, really high adventure fantasy novels, this one is kind of right there.
Yeah, flaming swords.
I think that's why you liked it so much when you were young.
Yeah, when I found it.
But yeah, there are more powerful swords, but I think, yeah.
Yeah, because I found it when I was 14, 15, something like that. But I've had the opportunity to find more powerful swords, and I have more powerful swords than this one, but this is the one that he always carries around with him. And there's a lot of undead in your world, so the +4
It's very true.
versus +4 to hit, +4 damage is very useful coming against that.
That's
but yeah,
true.
It's been on endless adventures. It's gone through dungeons and castles and wars and all kinds of different things. So that's the one that my character, Arik, A-R-E-K, uses. He's a pretty cool guy.
Have you named that sword? Or does it have a name?
It doesn't have a name. No, I never named it. Okay. I probably should name it. I never even considered that. I'll get back to you on that. Yeah. If you have more naming suggestions for my sword, let me know down below.
There we go.
That would actually be pretty cool. So that, yes, you can't go wrong with a good magical sword. You got to have a go-to.
And the flame tongue, it's it.
Absolutely. Now, alongside that, probably my favorite magical item that character has, and the one that he gets the most use out of, is his Ring of Flying that he found actually in the same dungeon,
yeah.
as the sword that we just talked about. It's been overused, I would say, probably more than the rules technically allow for, because I think in the DM's guide it only allows for an hour of flight time a day, is what I want to say. He's probably gotten a little bit more than that, but that ring has gotten me and the other members of our party out of some pretty sticky situations a wide variety of times. Flying up to intimidate people. Flying isn't something that happens very often in our real world, and especially in, Dungeons & Dragons worlds. There's not a lot of things that fly.
But not in my campaign.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, he's been flying around all over the place. The coolest thing that's ever happened with the Ring of Flying, this is the maybe coolest thing that I've ever had happen in my entire life, which says a lot about me and who I am as a person and what my experiences are. When we had a period 5-6 years ago where there was a huge war going on in the continents, in the countries that a lot of the stuff that these characters do takes place in. There's like 4 different countries that we move our way through. There's this big war going on. There are a bunch of gnolls invading, a bunch of undead invading, and things are looking pretty bad. At one point, while me and my party were coming back from... actually, they got transported across the continent, and they had to make their way all the way back across. They had to hike their way across. That was kind of an unpleasant ordeal. But while they were going, on the way back, they came across these armies that were starting to invade these countries. And there was a watchtower that had been left behind by the defending armies of the countries that we were going into, who were our buddies. They were who we were always allied with and doing things with. And these guys were kind of left in this watchtower to push back against these armies that were invading as much as they could.
So that the rest of the army could escape.
Could escape and kind of regroup elsewhere. So they were kind of left to die by the rest of their guys. They're being attacked by dragons and a whole bunch of people going around. We came across it on a flying carpet with our party and my ring of flying. So what we did was we just started flying around this tower, destroying siege engines around the tower, things like that, and at the same time fighting 2 dragons that were trying to kill the people in the tower. So my character took off from the flying carpet like the hero he is, started flying around and attacking dragons. I decided that the sword we just talked about in a few moments ago was actually not quite powerful enough for the situation because, you know, it's looking pretty dire. So I took my brothers,
and I don't think you expected to live through that.
I did not. I was ready to sacrifice myself for what had happened to defend these people. But my brother's character, who had become very incapacitated due to the nature of what was going on, had a Vorpal sword that he carried around with him. Took the Vorpal sword, you took my ring of flying, and I killed those 2 dragons.
As I remember, you leapt off of the carpet, and
started flying around.
And as you flew down, as you were descending with the ring, and you decapitated one of the dragons.
Well, because we killed the first one, because it was kind of a collective effort, because there were 2 younger dragons. They weren't anything too crazy, but we killed the younger dragon collectively, and then it was a natural 20 that I rolled with the Vorpal sword and cut the head off of the second dragon, and that staved off the attack. They retreated a little bit. We got the people out of the tower, got him back, and that was pretty cool moment. It was very exciting.
And that was a pivotal moment.
Oh, it was
for your character,
and for the character and the campaign as a whole. That was a big deal. That was a big thing that happened. So
and suddenly you were famous, and you were recognized.
I am. He's still alive.
He still is. But that was a pivotal, changing moment for that particular character.
That was a beautiful moment for everyone involved, except for the dragons. But yeah, that ring of flying, I've gotten quite a bit of good use out of it. And in any given situation, I won't say who, because some of you who play with us watch this channel, I have escape plans with that ring involved for any given situation. So I'm ready to go should things get really bad. But alongside that, let's see, what should we do next? Well, with that same character, right after we started playing, this is item number 3 we've moved on to now. My brother and I decided that the little kind of group that we would form, the little township, I should back up a little bit more. In this world, my brother and I have done a significant amount of service for the country that we find ourselves in. So due to some of those services that we've provided, we're basically wild counts. So we have this little plot of land that we've been given. We're technically part of the aristocracy sort of duke level of society. And we decided that the salamander was going to be kind of the insignia of it's a yellow salamander on a black background. It's kind of the insignia of our group.
But why?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. The reason is because this was a very long time ago. We created it's just a necklace, isn't it? It's a necklace that my brother wears and that I wear, depending on the situation, where if we say the magic word patingo, which we came up with when we were like 13.
You remember that.
The necklace will turn into a salamander that we can tell to go off and like scout something, go into a room, see what's going on, listen to people, things like that. And then it will come back when we call it back, and it will turn back into the necklace. So it's kind of our little scouting, let's see, I think there's voices in that room, let's kind of see what's going on in there, then it can come back and we can make a decision based off of that. But we've actually used that quite a few times in dungeons, and whenever we're very cautious players because of who he is as a person, so we're very careful with the decisions we make, and we try to be very cautious with what we do. So that's been a big one that we've gotten quite a bit of use out of.
Patingo, basically...
His name is Patingo.
And it's a
Patingo, the salamander
really.
charm that turns into Patingo, the actual salamander that we control. So that's a fun one. Magical item number 4. Within the big war that I talked about a minute ago, it was really focused around a very powerful group of magic users that had existed centuries before when our characters are doing their thing. And they had really aligned themselves with the different alignment categories within, lawful good, neutral, things like that. But they were divided amongst good and evil. There were 2 that were divided amongst good and evil, and there were 2 that were divided amongst law and chaos. So each one of them had their own cult, almost, of people who worshipped them, worshipped good, worshipped evil, worshipped law, or lawfulness, worshipped chaos. And they're all very powerful magic users, and they all had their own groups of people, but they all fought amongst each other quite a bit. Usually chaos would align with evil more often than not, law would align with good more often than not, but they all had their conflicts between each other. Part of what these magic users were doing, especially the good and the evil, were trying to figure out how to elongate their lives as much as they possibly could. The evil one in particular. He wanted to become immortal because he's evil, and that's,
and essentially hoping to outlast the others.
Yes, because they knew that if they would outlast the others, there would be an imbalance of power, and then they could further their own desires of what they wanted to do in the world. So the evil magic user, his name was Mazma, turned himself into this unbelievably powerful sword. So he put who he was. It's almost like becoming a lich in a way, putting your soul into a sword. So
his essence.
Yeah, his essence existed into this sword that was unbelievably powerful, that huge amounts of damage, could do all kinds of things, gave the wielder all kinds of powers. So that was what he did, and in response, the good magic user, whose name was Chardon, turned himself into a shield to be an adequately powerful thing to defend against this incredibly powerful sword. What the war was really fought over was that this sword, Mazma, wanted to invade the continents and bring his armies of gnolls and orcs and the undead and take over what was existing amongst the living and the good and things like that. We went, my group went and found Chardon, which was this magic shield, and this essentially where these magic users had been existing for long periods of time. He was been waiting there, hoping for somebody to come and find him and wield him so that he could go and fight against Mazma. It was a really cool magic item because it was a character for a while. It was an NPC for a while. It had, thoughts, and it could communicate with us telepathically and tell us different things, give us advice, and tell us all about the backstory of what was going on with Mazma and Chardon and their conflict. This campaign went on for 4 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
It was a long time, 4 years. It was a very, very long conflict that was going on here. But we got to know this character really, really well, and it was obviously a very powerful shield based off what I was said. It gave plus 10?
Depending on what you were fighting.
Yeah, if we were, especially if we were fighting Mazma the sword using this shield, it would be like plus 10 to armor class. It was it would ward off spells, had a lot of magical protections, things like that. So it wasn't just a shield that would protect against hitting things. It protected against magic and whatever else as well. So it all kind of came down to this big conflict between Chardon the shield and Mazma the sword. We ultimately won the conflict. Thank goodness. We saved the world, as we do. And Mazma was destroyed, but Chardon, knowing that there would now be an imbalance of power between good and evil, decided to destroy himself so that there wouldn't be that temptation to overrun that balance.
To become what he had just destroyed.
What he had just helped to destroy. Yeah. So it was a very cool character / magical item that we had around for a very, very long time, and we used for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And it was stuff to see him go, because he made me unbelievably powerful for about 4 years.
Which is really why he had to go.
Yeah, he had to go. It was a good decision, but it
still it fit the story. It was all part and parcel of what was developing throughout that 4-year period of time.
Yeah, but it was a very, very cool magical item, and it's one of my favorites that we've ever had to use. Finally, last but not least, number 5, magical item number 5, we actually found This would have been before that war. Or no, just after. I'm not sure.
Which one was it?
The tapestries.
Oh, the tapestries have been around.
It would have been during. It was during, I think.
You first came across the tapestries when you left the city of Boston.
No, that's how we got to Boston. Just before we got to Boston.
You're right, because you used them. Yeah, you came out
This
of the
will
cliff.
be explained in a second.
Sorry, private conversation here. You used them to come out of the cliffs
Next to Boston.
next to Boston.
Yeah.
You found them in the dungeon
Of the Death Knight.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one who was on the island, as I remember.
Yes, it was on
That was
the
where
island.
it was.
Okay, so
The island, the underground island.
Of Misfit Toys.
The underground island that you
we
had to
had
go
to
through the underground river
through the
to
tunnel
get to. That was
yeah.
what it was.
So
Sorry, it's been a while.
one of the members of our party is named Anara. She's a thief kind of person. If any of you have ever played, interesting tangent, the video game Neverwinter Nights 2, which was a big deal for a long time. We played that all the time, especially when I was younger. There's a character in that named...
Don't remember.
Right here, this is her name. She's a tiefling that's one of the main NPCs that you go along with. That's a big kind of who he based this NPC off of.
It's not a tiefling. I don't have tieflings in my campaign, but I did base her off of the tiefling in Neverwinter Nights.
Yeah. So her name's Anara. She is... we found her in a dungeon one time because she had basically run away from home. She's the daughter of one of the kings of one of the neighboring countries to ours. So she's a very important person, but she didn't like the responsibility she had and who she was growing up to be, so she ran away and left, and we found her. We didn't realize who she was for a really long time. Until she was essentially kidnapped by this group of people who wanted to take her and leverage something out of the king of this country. The country's called Ilor. So she was kidnapped, and we decided, well, we've got to go and find her because she's one of our party.
And she'd become one of
she was one of our friends by that point. So she was kidnapped and taken far away. We kind of tracked her down and where she was taken to. We had to find an abandoned city in the middle of a forest, a haunted forest. Took an underground tunnel through some an underground river, through some tunnels, to get to this island that had a castle on it, kind of a ruined castle that had been like haunted and used by different people for a very long time. We got there, we came up inside the castle, and the castle was really owned and kind of run by a Death Knight. And if you've ever read the Death Knight description in the Monster Manual, they're very, very scary, very, very dangerous. Not things that you want to come across and fight very often.
In my campaign, you leave them alone.
Yeah. She was being held in the tallest tower of this ruined castle on this island, so we all had to sneak our way through the castle, go up and get her, and come back down. But in the basement of this castle, in the dungeons,
the dungeons
under
of
the castle, basement, we found a room that had a bunch of tapestries on the wall, and we realized that when we looked at the tapestries, the things in the tapestries were moving on the other side. So after we sat there for a while, we kind of figured out that if you step through the tapestries, you get taken to different places around the world, some of which are huge distances away from where this castle was. So just portals, essentially, that can take you to different places. Part of our escape route was to go grab this person, come back down, and go through one of these tapestries in order to escape, because there were a lot of people going around this castle and doing things, very bad guys. So these tapestries were very, very powerful things, and before we left, we made sure to roll up 3 of them and take the 4th after we went through on our escape route. So we have 4 of these tapestries that are currently sitting in storage right now, and we've only gone through 1 of them. So there are 3 adventures that we still have left to go through and do things. We know where 1 of them, but we know where 2 of them come out. But we know where 1 of the ones that we haven't gone through comes out. But they're pretty spread out, the different destinations for these things. So they're just kind of, I really like them because they're just adventures that we have whenever we want. If we want to go through and use them, we can. But at the same time, the places that they end up at, if we are creative about it and we use them properly, they're going to end up in just that being some very interesting adventures. Moving things around the world in different ways when travel is something that takes a really, really long time. So it's a great opportunity that we're just excited to kind of figure out how we want to use, because we haven't figured it out yet. But hopefully they're still there when I go back and open up my bag of holding.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Things happen.
But yeah, those are my personal favorites from the adventures that I have had in his world. Hopefully they're all still there when I get back. let us know what you think. If you have any of these items or something similar that you have in your campaign, we would love to hear about it. And we would also love to hear about just what your favorite magical items are, because everybody has them. You come across them and you remember them for a long time.
Yeah, there are those special magic items.
Yeah.
That really stick out.
Yeah.
In your adventure memory.
For one reason or another. They're important to you or they're important to your character.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be a +2 sword unless there's something about that +2 sword that helps you in the adventure.
Unless
it's got an
you killed
extra
a
power
Balrog with it or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
One of the ones that, talking about these things, a perfect example is there was a John when he was playing years ago.
Hi, John.
He had an axe, and I want to say it was just a +1 axe. It might have been a +2 axe. Its name was B-Mill. And B-Mill was just slightly sentient. It couldn't really communicate all that much, but it could communicate when it wanted to. Wasn't anything special. It's what John ended up using B-Mill for, and where the things that John went out and accomplished and just happened to have B-Mill with him, that's what made B-Mill the special weapon. So sometimes it's just the context.
It's just the memories you make along the way.
That the weapon is in, or the magical item is in. So
yeah. So yeah, we would just love to hear about your guys' experience with magical items, whatever your favorites are. Let's hear about them down below. We always like to hear about your guys' experience with this stuff.
Exactly. Yep. Let us know. Sign in to the Old Warlock and tell us what your favorite things are.
Let us know. That's really all we've got.
We have nothing else to talk about right now.
Nope. Check out all of the links down below as to all of our interesting things. We got Instagram. We have YouTube. That's where you probably are right now. We have our website. We have all of our podcasting information. We have our Spreadshirt shop.
We're moving to Patreon.
We are moving to Patreon. For those of you who have contributed to us for On Coffee, KOFI, over the years, we really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. We've decided to make the relocation because... why not?
Just because.
Yeah.
So look for that to happen. We are not, just so you know, we are not going to start charging for general access to the channel.
No, not at all.
That's not what we're doing this for.
We want to do.
But we are going to make a switch over there, and we may end up having some content available on Patreon that you will have to give us a few dollars for access.
It will be on top of what we already make. There aren't going to be any changes made to our uploading here on this channel.
No, and that's not the plan. It's just that we need to generate a little income here just to pay for some of the things. We just dropped a bunch of money on SD cards. So
yeah,
we're like, maybe we should
maybe it's not a bad
find
idea.
a way to move this along to Patreon.
But aside from that, we do have some interesting things in the works here for the holidays and winter coming up here. Keep your eyes out for those. We're not really going to talk about any of them yet. We want to nail it down a little bit more, but
make sure we can do them.
There's a lot of fun stuff coming that we've been working very hard on. So
we think it's fun.
We think it's fun. We've had a lovely time doing it. We hope you like it as well. So keep your eyes open for all that. Check out the links below, and that's it. Keep your sword on free.
I'm Jim.
I'm Alex.
See you later. Oh, sorry. Let's try that again. I'm Jim.
I'm Alex.
Keep your sword on free.
Bye-bye.